Our planet Earth wasn't always here. In fact, the story of Earth begins long before there was any sign of life, land, or even the planet itself. To understand how our world came to be, we have to travel back in time, over 4.5 billion years ago, to a universe that looked very different from today. Billions of years ago, a giant cloud of dust and gas floated in the vast emptiness of space. This cloud, called a solar nebula, was made up of tiny particles, gases, and cosmic debris left over from earlier generations of stars that had exploded. Slowly, this enormous cloud started to spin, set in motion by the force of gravity. As it spun, gravity pulled everything closer together, causing the cloud to flatten into a disk. The spinning got faster and faster, and the material in the center began to clump tightly. The center of this spinning disk became incredibly hot and bright, eventually igniting to form our sun. The birth of the sun marked the beginning of a new solar system, lighting up the darkness of space. Around the newborn sun, smaller clumps of dust and gas began to stick together, colliding and merging over millions of years. These clumps grew larger and larger, eventually becoming the planets, including our own Earth. Early Earth was a hot and violent place, its surface a sea of molten rock. Volcanoes erupted constantly, and the planet was bombarded by asteroids and comets, shaping its surface and adding new materials from space. Over millions of years, Earth slowly cooled down. The thick atmosphere was filled with water vapor, which eventually condensed as the surface temperature dropped. This led to the formation of vast oceans, covering much of the planet. With oceans in place and the planet finally stable, the stage was set for one of the greatest events in the universe, the beginning of life on Earth. Deep in the oceans, where sunlight barely reaches and the water is cold and dark, a remarkable story began billions of years ago. Near cracks in the Earth's crust, at the bottom of the sea, something amazing happened. Here, superheated water rich in minerals gushed out from hydrothermal vents, creating a unique environment unlike anywhere else on the planet. In these warm, chemical-rich waters, simple life forms began to emerge. The energy and nutrients provided by the vents made it possible for the first living things to appear. These single-celled organisms, invisible to the naked eye, were the very first life on Earth. They were the ancestors of all living things we know today. Though tiny, they had the incredible ability to reproduce, passing on their traits to new generations and slowly changing over time as they adapted to their surroundings. Over millions of years, these early life forms evolved, becoming more diverse and better suited to their environment. Some developed new ways to gather energy and survive in the ever-changing ocean. Eventually, they became more complex, forming simple multicellular organisms. These new life forms found innovative ways to survive and thrive in the vast ocean world. Some of these organisms developed the ability to photosynthesize, capturing sunlight and turning it into energy. This was a revolutionary step in the history of life. As they photosynthesized, they released oxygen into the water and eventually into the atmosphere, slowly transforming the very air we breathe and paving the way for more complex life. The ocean soon became teeming with life, filled with countless tiny creatures, each playing a part in the unfolding story of our planet. Life continued to diversify in the oceans. Some creatures developed skeletons and backbones, becoming the ancestors of fish we know today. Plants also evolved, with some eventually growing large enough to form underwater forests. As time passed, some adventurous creatures started to explore the edges of the sea, venturing onto land. These were the ancestors of amphibians, creatures that could live both in water and on land. The land, once barren, was slowly becoming green with plants. Insects, the descendants of early land dwellers, took to the air. Life had conquered a new frontier. Over the course of millions upon millions of years, the Earth was in a constant state of transformation. Continents shifted, climates changed, and life itself was always adapting, evolving, and finding new ways to survive. The story of life on our planet is one of resilience and endless change. From the murky waters, the first amphibians crawled onto land, paving the way for a new era. These creatures, in turn, gave rise to reptiles, who would become the dominant life forms for ages to come. Some of these reptiles evolved into the mighty dinosaurs, towering giants and swift hunters that ruled the Earth for an astonishing 160 million years, shaping the world in their image. But even the reign of the dinosaurs was not forever. A catastrophic meteor impact changed everything, wiping out most of these ancient creatures and opening the door for a new chapter in Earth's history, the age of mammals. In the heart of Africa, amidst vast savannas and dense forests, a remarkable transformation was underway. Here, a new kind of animal was slowly emerging, one that would eventually change the course of history. These were our earliest ancestors, primate-like beings who began to stand upright, walking on 2 legs instead of 4. This simple change would have profound consequences for the future. Walking upright freed their hands, allowing them to craft simple tools, gather food more efficiently, and interact with their environment in entirely new ways. It was a small step, but a giant leap for our lineage. These early humans were still very different from us: smaller brains, more primitive features, and a life closely tied to the rhythms of nature. Yet within them burned the first sparks of intelligence and curiosity. This was the dawn of humanity, the beginning of a journey that would one day shape the destiny of the entire planet. Our human ancestors continued to evolve in Africa. Their brains grew larger, and they became more skilled at using tools. They learned to make fire, providing warmth, protection, and a way to cook food. This mastery of fire was a turning point, allowing humans to thrive in new environments and eventually spread across the globe. Humans migrated out of Africa, traveling to Asia, Europe, and beyond. They adapted to different climates and landscapes, and their ingenuity and cooperation allowed them to overcome challenges. They built shelters, learned to farm, and formed communities. Humanity's impact on the planet was growing,